this space in the wardrobe.
It's wonderful. Let's put your dresses over here.
If you believe life never offers second chances, Day's journey will make you think again. After leaving behind a broken marriage, he finds hope, healing, and unexpected love on Huyen's peaceful countryside farm. Their quiet days, shared laughter, and growing affection soon blossom into a tender, heartwarming beginning neither of them dared dream of. This is a story of renewal, gentle happiness, and love blooming where the soul finally feels at home. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the full emotional journey. And now, let's step into the story of Day and Huyen. After the divorce papers were finally signed and the last lingering threads of his old life were gently severed, Day felt a strange lightness settle over him, an unfamiliar but welcome sensation, like the first breath after resurfacing from a long dive. For years, he had carried the weight of a marriage that had slowly emptied itself of warmth, and now, standing at this quiet crossroads, he realized how exhausted he had been. The city, with its restless noise and constant demands, no longer felt like a place he belonged. So he packed his belongings, some clothes, a few books, a handful of items that truly mattered, and set off toward the countryside, toward the small, sun-washed farm where Huyen lived. He had visited the farm before, though never for long. Yet every time he came, something inside him softened. It was the kind of place where morning mist clung gently to the fields, where the air tasted of earth and wildflowers, and where silence wasn't empty but full of crickets, of wind brushing through tall grass, of rustling leaves whispering stories older than memory. And always, somewhere in that picture, was Huyen, steady, warm, quietly radiant in the way only someone at peace with herself could be. As Dee's car rolled to a stop at the edge of the gravel path, his heart beat faster, not with fear, but with a sense of beginning. Huyen stepped out onto the porch when she heard the engine, wiping flour from her hands as if she had just left the kitchen. The late afternoon sun framed her in a soft glow, turning the stray strands of hair near her cheek into threads of amber. She smiled, a simple, genuine smile that reached her eyes, and in that moment, Day felt something inside him loosen, as though the tight knots of the past were finally unraveling. He lifted his suitcase from the car, but it was her gaze that truly made him feel like he was arriving. Not just to a place, but to a life waiting patiently for him to choose it. As he walked toward her, the scent of baked bread and the distant sound of chickens settling into their coop drifted through the air. Everything felt unhurried, grounded, real. Day paused on the porch, standing only a step away from her, and for the first time in a very long while, he allowed himself to exhale fully, letting go of what had been and quietly embracing what was to come. The first days of living together settled around them like a gentle dawn, soft, golden, and full of promise. Life on Huyen's farm had its own rhythm, unhurried yet deeply alive, and Day found himself slipping into it with surprising ease. Each morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains before the rooster even crowed, painting the walls with a tender glow that nudged them awake. Day would step outside to find the fields shimmering with dew, the air cool and crisp, as if the world had been freshly washed overnight. Huyen would already be up, tying her hair with quick, practiced movements, greeting him with a smile that warmed him more than the rising sun ever could. Together, they cared for the land, though care felt too simple a word for the quiet joy threaded through their daily tasks. They fed the animals side by side, their hands occasionally brushing, sending pleasant sparks through the calmness of the morning. They watered the young rows of vegetables, laughing at the way the soil splashed onto their boots, or at how the goats always found a way to get into mischief. The farm, with all its small responsibilities, became a shared heartbeat between them, steady, reassuring, and beautifully ordinary. By midday, when the sun was high and the world glowed with heat, they would rest beneath the old tamarind tree near the chicken coop. Huyen would bring out iced tea sweetened lightly with honey, and Day would share stories from his life before the farm, not the painful details, but the glimpses of who he once was. She listened with a softness that made him feel seen instead of judged, understood instead of steady. It was in these quiet conversations that Day realized how much he had missed being able to simply exist beside someone without tension or pretense. Evenings on the farm held their own kind of magic. As dusk pressed its violet hue across the sky, they cooked dinner together, filling the kitchen with the comforting aroma of herbs and simmering broth. When the day faded into night, they would sit on the porch with cups of warm tea, listening to the chorus of crickets humming like a lullaby for the land. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they sat in serene silence, yet even silence felt full of trust, of companionship, of a happiness so gentle it almost felt sacred. In those peaceful days, surrounded by open sky and honest work, Day discovered that healing did not always come in grand moments. Often, it bloomed quietly, in laughter shared over muddy boots, in hands working the soil side by side, in the simple certainty that he and Huyen had found a life where their hearts could finally rest. One evening, after a long day of tending the fields, a gentle quiet settled over the farm, one so deep and tender that it felt as if the world were slowing just to give them space. The sky blushed with fading shades of peach and rose as the sun drifted behind the distant hills, leaving behind a soft afterglow that wrapped everything in warm, sleepy light. Day and Huyen finished their chores a little later than usual, laughing as they washed the dirt from their hands at the outdoor basin. When Huyen lifted her head and tucked a damp strand of hair behind her ear, Day felt a ripple of affection so profound it almost startled him. Somewhere between shared mornings and peaceful evenings, something in their hearts had quietly intertwined. That night, Huyen lit a few candles in the kitchen, their flames flickering gently against the wooden shelves. The modest dinner they prepared together filled the room with comforting scents. Fresh herbs, warm rice, a hint of lemongrass drifting through the air like a soft welcoming sigh. They talked about small things, a stubborn goat that kept escaping its pen, the new buds blooming near the fence, the letter Day had received from an old friend. But beneath those everyday words flowed something deeper, a current of meaning neither of them needed to name. Every glance lingered just a heartbeat longer. Every smile felt like an unspoken invitation. When the meal ended and the candles dimmed to small golden pools, they stepped outside to the porch. The night was velvet dark, embroidered with thousands of stars. A delicate breeze carried the scent of ripened fruit and distant blossoms. They leaned against the wooden railing, shoulders almost touching, listening to the rustle of leaves and the soft symphony of crickets. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was warm, expectant, glowing with the quiet certainty that something beautiful was unfolding. Huyen turned toward him first, her eyes reflecting the starlight like twin lanterns. Day met her gaze with a tenderness shaped by all the days they had shared, every gentle moment, every quiet understanding. Without needing words, they stepped closer. Their hands found each other's naturally, fingers intertwining as if they had always been meant to fit that way. In that exchange, light as breath, soft as dawn, they felt the promise of a new chapter opening for them. It was a night wrapped in sweetness, filled with the warmth of two hearts finally meeting without hesitation. No grand declarations, no dramatic gestures, just the deep, glowing realization that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Under the soft shimmer of the stars and the calm whisper of the countryside, Day and Huyen let their affection bloom fully, beginning a love that felt both gentle and wondrous, like the first light of morning spreading across a field they now shared as home.